Welcome to the shed. This is my Grizzly Geo 765 mini lathe. In the last episode, I scraped the bottom of the compound slide. In this episode, we'll do the same to the adjacent side so that I can use it as a reference surface when setting up the turn tapers. Later on, I'll even get to scraping the top and bottom of this cross slide here. Previously, I whipped up this grinding fixture to sharpen my carbide blade, but it needs some improvement. Before we get to scraping, let's do just that. My name's Marcos, and you're watching Backyard Machinist. Previous viewers may recall I used a green carbide silica grinding wheel last time, but it definitely left something to be desired. Its replacement is going to be this 150 grit diamond wheel with an aluminum center. However, it needs an 1.25 inch to 1/2 inch bushing. Let's head on over to the lathe. I'm going to make use of this 1.5 inch aluminum scrap. A 1-2-3 block to square up the tool post. It's time to face this thing. Then center drilling. I probably should have piloted, but I went straight to a 31/64 drill. Followed by a 1/2 inch reamer. Who needs compressed air? According to our super legit blueprints, we are shooting for a diameter of 1.257. .257. Woohoo! I actually hit a dimension. That never happens. Our bushing needs to be 0.37 inches wide. I'll make use of this 2-inch dial indicator. Mr. Pete's razor blade trick eliminates the need for accounting for your parting blade's width. So we're just going to move the carriage over 0.37. Got 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I cut with my parting tool upside down and the lathe in reverse. If the tool gets stuck, it gets pushed away instead of getting sucked in, which usually causes chatter on these little lathes. There we go, a metal circle. Came out to dimension, and it fits in there okay. It's not really like the tightest fit ever, but I'm gonna run it, see what happens.
Hey bro, that's what you get for using some calipers to measure the wheel's ID.
And get out of here.
Whatever, noob.
Before we move on, let's take a moment to appreciate this rainbow that appeared on this 160-year-old Brown and Sharp turret lathe.
It's these little moments I enjoy most in the shop.
Anyway, in the previous episode, the grinding fixture caused this perplexing diagonal facet on the surface scraping blade. Not really sure why. This diagram shows the -5 degree cutting edge on the surface of a scraping blade. A single blade can potentially have 4 cutting edges before needing to sharpen it. Seeing as there are many inaccuracies that can add up in this assembly, I'm going to do what I should have done from the beginning, which is machine certain critical surfaces. We'll counterbore and sink this 21-inch long mild steel plate to secure it to the rotary table. It's okay. It's okay. You can cringe at my makeshift machinist jack. No, I don't care. It worked. Fly cutters taking off 5 thou. This Cincinnati Toolmaster has 19 inches of travel in this particular axis. So by rotating the table, I was able to access the other side of the plate. Now, this is probably unconventional, but the machine gods didn't strike me down this time. This aluminum plate that bolts onto the steel one got a similar treatment. That low spot is for weight reduction, yeah. This one cleaned up good. Now, this surface plate's a little bit small, but let's try a pivot test. Looks like it's pivoting about 1/3 of the way from the ends, which is supposedly reassuring. Hammer, please. Those hollow sounds on the ends indicate there's a bit of a gap on the ends. A 2.5 thou feeler gauge slipped in a couple spots, but a 3 didn't go in anywhere. I'd say it's flat enough. Dial shows 2 thou variance where the angle plate sits. Then calibrating the squareness comparator before we check the angle plate. This was machined last episode. Looks like it's leaning forward 1/1000th at 5 inches. I prepared the bench grinder's feet by removing the paint and getting it reasonably flat with a file, removing any rock so that it can be repeatable. Half thou indicator shows 1.5 thousandths run out closer to the grinder and 2 further away. Measuring the high points shows 2 thou variance in parallelism to the surface plate at these points. Let this be the x-axis and this be the y-axis. There's a slope in the table's height across the y-axis, but the x-axis's height remains constant. Hopefully the y-axis slope can be compensated for when I set the fixture's 5-degree angle. But you know when someone moves their hands like this, things can't be good. In retrospect, I think this may have been the cause of some error you'll see later. In reality, I should have machined the base of the compound table to ensure that it'd be coplanar to the surface plate.
Yo, what's this guy even doing?
On to confirming the fixture's 5-degree angle. Then approximating center height. This scribe center line I'm referencing was totally intentional and didn't happen when I dragged the center drill. I then installed the blade, placing it against the machined registration shoulder. Don't want that flying anywhere.
You gotta clean up this whole edge and then flip it.
I've got a mask on to avoid inhaling grinding dust. I then flipped the blade over in the holder, and my dad loosened up his shoulder. Disappointing result. Still cut diagonally. I fitted in more at the far edge of the blade, but this made facets that could be seen while scraping. I'm stumped, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. For peace of mind, here's the blade's locating shoulder and the 80mm radius set last episode. I then honed my chops on a rusty brake rotor. Seriously.
Soul's positive intent up with that of other souls, out there. So you like try and tap into this network of
Scraping is such a slow material removal rate, so I'm gonna try to get it close with a file. Oh, but I wish I hadn't have done this since I rolled the edges over pretty bad. I ended up doing damage control by cutting a flat and square face at the mill. Followed by a blanket pass before bluing.
Okay.
So there I went, back and forth, scraping, stoning, bluing, repeat. And here's that iterative process on display. Watch the blue spread, just like that one time at your friend's pool party.
Oh, that's nasty.
Looking good. With the compound slide done, let's move on to the cross slide. A better view of the stoning that occurred between each pass. We'll start off with the lower portion of the cross slide. I'm hoping that with a wider contact area, this will improve the rigidity of the dovetail. New passes are done 90 degrees to the previous to avoid chatter. This creates a sort of cross-hatching look.
Every 0.125 inches, you gotta make a scrape. Every time you make 10 scrapes, you gotta
Do one push-up.
do one push-up.
And it was by this math that I scraped through some 30 passes before giving up on a persistent low corner. But according to the machinery's handbook, this is equivalent to some 30,000 push-ups.
Oh, he's swole.
All I gotta say is that you have to be patient to do surface scraping. But boy, were my hands hurting at the end of the day. That's tolerable. Let's move on to the upper portion of the cross slide. There seem to be high spots in the corners here. And eventually I resigned to just scraping one edge per side of the blade. I'm not going to bother with any more still frames of this side's progress. Instead, here's a full pass at double speed. Feel free to skip ahead if you feel antsy. At this point, I was feeling more comfortable with surface scraping. I think this face looked the best of the four. My cuts were developing a slight curve even. Then I flipped it around for the last corner. Final blue shows pretty good coverage. I did give up on this spot though, but an indicator showed little height difference anyhow. Just zeroing out this 10th indicator. It shows about 5/10 variance, which I'm very pleased with. Here it is, all assembled. Let's pretend I'm not missing a Gibbs screw, or that the compound is too tight. Hopefully this will make this import machine a little more precise and rigid, and aid in future operations like a long anticipated Benchmaster horizontal mill spindle regrind. If you're interested in seeing that and other shenanigans, consider subscribing. And on that note, holy smokes, I want to thank all of you for tuning in last episode and everyone's comments and insights for improvement. I also want to thank those who helped me put this little film together. You know who you are. Until next time. Bench credit comes with this heart.
Thanks for watching.